Hello guys, so here we are for the 1 hour endurance race in World Sim Series, and this is part of a championship by Boombox Racing, by a team registered here, and you have some rules. I've just done the free practice session and I was second overall and second in my class. I think now the event is starting. Let's see. I think the 5-minute practice session is just to see if everything is working as it should. I'm a bit tired, I just came running from the gym just to get on with this race. I'm just going to drive a bit just to be sure that everything is getting recorded the way it should. I had some traffic in qualifying, so I qualified P3, but I was P2 in practice.
60 minutes, P3.
Had a very short amount of time. I hope my setup for this car just works fine and that I'm able to do a consistent race. So the start is a bit chaotic. I lose one position because I'm a bit slow with the start, getting used to the configuration and everything. But then it's pretty easy to get position back. I had to be a bit careful to avoid contact, and that will be a theme throughout the whole race. Here we go, guys. I was a bit nervous with the start of the race because my quali wasn't that good. Right now I know that it is just a matter of time until I catch the guy in P2, but I know the guy in P1 is very fast. I wanted to talk more to the microphone during the race, but because it was my first time driving this LMP3 car, I was getting a bit of too much focus in the race, trying to focus more in racing than talking and trying to understand what the car wants me to do to drive it at pace, and trying to get the feeling for the car and the setup. I was just getting used to it. Here you can see that I just locked up one of the front tires, and because the tires have 200% tire wear, they are very well affected by these things. They are very well affected by lockups. The tire was overheating pretty badly and the tire pressure was very badly too high, and the tires will wear out a bit faster, so this gives the feeling of a proper endurance race. After a few very high speed zones, mainly on the straights and on the start-finish line, my tires are getting colder back again, so you can see the tire temperatures are also affected nicely when you drive carefully, and that you can protect your tires a little bit with the driving if you are careful enough. And this will be something to keep in mind, especially on the second stint of the race. Here I almost went off track and activated too much traction control. That was a really bad mistake on the AstroTurf. And something very unexpected happens here. One of the guys went off track. The guy that was in P1 at the start of the race actually gets down to P2. I'm careful here to avoid doing any mistakes, and because the guy had a good pace, I wasn't too worried about following him, since endurance racing is more of a race of attrition. But here I started to notice that he is getting a little bit off shape and that he is struggling to keep control of the car a bit more, and maybe I can have a chance to overtake him. The guy in front of us was actually the guy that was posting the fastest lap times during the practice session, and he only qualified second, but he was supposed to have qualified first. Need to think about tire saving. Because this is a long race and I can already see the tires getting a little bit of wear right after the first 5 minutes of race, I'm starting to think about how to save the tires. Right now I want to push, but I still got to be very careful because the guy in P2 is just half a second behind me. I can see him trying to get closer to me in the slower speed corners in the third sector of the track, and I gotta be careful. Here I'm starting to think that because I'm getting a bit closer to the guy in P1, maybe I can try to fight for first place in this race. And I'm thinking maybe I could adjust the camera to be a bit more comfortable with the car, maybe try to see if I can understand the track limits better. Too much curb there. Cost me time. And here I'm finally going for the move, overtaking for the first position in this race. My heart was racing. I was very scared of having any contact, and the guy in P3 also overtook this guy. So P1 and P2 are getting switched again. Me and the guy in P2 are pushing the car really hard, and you can see that the guy in P2 is just right behind me. And we were both P2 and P3 before, so now the guy from P2 is on the inside line from a better exit on that last corner, and he is using his advantage on the third sector to actually overtake me into third one here. Too bad I was too wide on exit here, as I'm trying to figure out how to drive this car. Really bad mistake on the curbs again. And I am back to P3 after just being in P1, and we are the three cars still together, still pushing the car, trying to fight for positions and switching positions between each other. This is building up and looking to be a really nice race. And we are still racing with each other, but soon we will be coming into traffic and overtaking other cars from other classes. Here you see me fiddling a little bit with brake bias, trying to figure out how I can push more lap time out of this car, because it is my first time driving it. We're getting close to some lapped cars from the lower classes right now. This can be a little bit of a struggle depending on which car I got in which position of the track. Sometimes lap traffic might work at your advantage, other times it might hinder your race. You never know, you need to look at the track map and try to be ready. It looked to me that I was struggling a bit with the lapped traffic and I was starting to fall behind a bit. This is a very long race and I'm not in a very bad position yet. I can still fight for the win from this place, so I gotta just be careful and try to keep my head down. That was another bad mistake, sliding on that corner, but at least I joined this race because I'm very familiar with this track and I'm able to be fighting the fastest guys on track with a car that I've never driven before, because I'm very familiar with this track. There was contact in front of us. Some of the lower class cars just crashed and one of them was sent into the wall. I'm struggling a bit to keep control of the rear tires of this car. Maybe it's the setup, I don't know. This was pretty scary. We are finally running into clean air with the three cars in the front group, but these slides and these moments where my car is starting to lose grip are scaring me a bit. I think this is where things start to fall apart from me because of the setup maybe, but my tires are wearing out pretty fast. P1, P2 and P3 we are still racing each other, but now we are a bit more distant between each other after lapping lots of traffic, and we are a bit more distant. I'm still trying to push as hard as I can to get to the guy that is just right in front of me, and sometimes that will cost me with a bit of some errors here and there and some slides. Sometimes I will get almost off the track limits or just go with the car too much on the curves and the AstroTurf, and that ends up costing me more time if I had just done a little bit of a tighter line. I ended up trying to adjust the camera settings a little bit because I was struggling for visibility, and I thought that maybe changing for a little bit more visibility or more comfort with the eyes, it would be easier for me to drive at pace. On some of the LMP cars the visibility is very limited in the cockpit, and sometimes it's pretty difficult to understand the distance brake markers and how I'm putting the car on the track, especially if I'm not used to drive that car and I'm still not used to the car's dimensions. Soon we'll be close to some other lapped cars again, because we have almost 30 drivers on the track, which is a bit rare for online races, depending on where you race them. I was very happy to see so many drivers registered for this race, and that was one of the reasons that led me to just join this interesting endurance race, with some very nice configurations to make the race very immersive. Because World Sim Series has some safety ranking and pace rating, everything, you do get some really clean and nice racing. For the most part, everyone has been very polite and clean on track, and the experience is really good with real penalty add-ons to work as race stewards. Pretty scary moment there with the slide. The rear tires are getting cooked. More slower class cars in front of us to overtake, and it seems that I'm still falling behind in pace compared to the guys in front. And the guy in first place just went off track while overtaking some slower class car. I think that the rear tires are being a struggle for everyone. One of the guys got taken out. I think it was P2 that crashed with the blue flag. Pretty unfortunate for him, but lucky for me, I'm getting closer. Really bad lockup under braking. Maybe some of the drivers are struggling with the longer stints required for the endurance race. Once again, I'm starting to get closer to P1, and I'm itching to push the car a bit more just to try to close the gap and reduce the distance, maybe try to fight for that place. think that for quite a while I started to get tunnel vision, and I was just so focused and so distracted with the race itself that I didn't notice the tire wear on my rear tires and the tires getting into the red. Here I'm just itching to take the positions and just trying to get ahead. I was closing in on him, but I got scared with the blue flag, blue card into the braking zone. I'm still only 1 second behind him, so anything is possible. But this guy is really fast, and he seems to be taking good care of his tires as well. Pretty consistent. The P2 guy is just 3 seconds behind me now. Here I had a really bad moment to overtake this lapped car because it was in a very weird place for me when I was getting a ton of understeer into the outside line of the corner, and I ended up losing a bunch of time behind that blue Toyota Supra. Starting to fall behind with the blue flagged cars. A ton of cars there. Some car moving under braking, I end up having a lockup. This is a pretty scary moment for me. I think I'm even lapping someone in the same class as me, an LMP3 driver that is getting lapped. This was a real weird part of the race where I just ended up losing a bunch of lap time and just falling behind quite a bit because of these inconsistencies. It's part of the endurance racing, dealing with traffic and figuring out how to overtake and trying to get ourselves ready before these moments arrive. I forgot I was running without any traction control on, and I ended up turning on traction control to 7. The higher number means you have less traction control here in Assetto Corsa, and so if I wanted a bit more I would lower it from 7 to 6 to have a stronger traction control effect from the onboard traction control. In my experience in real life, using traction control on LMP3 cars can make you lose a bunch of lap time, even though it can protect the tires. And so I was trying to just race with the minimal traction control, or if possible, without any traction control on. But here in Assetto Corsa it seems that the traction control on board on this car is a bit better, and therefore maybe I should have had that traction control on. Here I'm getting again a bit closer to the guy in P1, even though we are going through lapped traffic. Still struggling a bit with the rear tires that are now at the end of their lives. But I still need to drive for at least more 6 minutes before I arrive at half the race and at my ideal pit window, in theory. tires are pretty gone. At this moment I wish I could just go to the pits and change the tires, but then I might compromise the second stint of the race, where I'll have more time on the second set of tires. I messed up really bad. This was where I binned my race and I lost my chances of getting into P1 because I just spun the tires. The tires were already way too hot and way too worn out. I was too distracted and too eager to overtake the guys in front. This is really sad. I was fighting for a podium position, maybe P1 or P2, but I didn't expect to spin like this. Right now I'm even closer to the guy in P4 than the guy in P2. I'm just 9 seconds behind the guy in P2 and 11 seconds behind the guy in P1, so P1 and P2 are now closer together fighting for position. My tire temperatures are all messed up and even the pressures. I was in a nice fight in the thick of it, but now I just didn't look at the tire temperatures or didn't expect it. I don't know, but just really sad. Now this race has turned into a recovery drive race. Maybe it was my setup that was a bit too lively on the rear end and the front end of the car is still a bit too strong. But I was struggling a bit with too much rotation from the rear tires and the tires were wearing out faster. I was using those tires a bit more than the front tires, and it was not a matter of rotation, because if I tried to turn a bit more and skid a bit more, get more slip angle in the front, the rear tires would follow and just rotate as well. Some of these overtakes on the lower classes were very scary for me because I really didn't want to have contact with anyone, and I even lost some time sometimes in some places where I was losing way too much pace and speed just to be sure that I avoided contact almost at all costs. I don't want it to sound as an excuse, but I was really tired from the gym. I started going for the past few months, almost half a year, and I've been training 3 days a week. I think it was chest and back day, or shoulder, biceps and triceps. So I was already feeling sore from the training and I started racing, which was really fun for me. And of course I really enjoy pushing the limits, but because I also enjoy using a very strong force feedback. Today I was missing my usual physical ability. The rear tires want to slide on their own. I've already lost so much time when I bin the car that right now I'm thinking that maybe I'll extend for one extra lap this stint and try to figure out a better pit strategy or a way to do the second stint of the race a little bit more safer, maybe keep the traction control on to save tires while the tires are still new, so that I can avoid getting into a very difficult position when the tires are completely worn out. The guy in P1 just went into the pits, so I'm going to be overtaking him while he is on the pits. Half of the race still to go and I'm already pretty tired, but this is my last lap of fuel. Now I'll have a little bit of time to rest in the pits, and the pits might be a little bit longer because I'm going to need a really big refuel. Here I even increased the traction control by lowering the numbers, so it's a stronger traction control because I was struggling so much. My tires were without any tread left, so the tires were completely worn out, completely destroyed, and in some cases and in some of the cars in Assetto Corsa your tires will be burning when you reach this level of wear on your tires. The crew chief race engineer kept warning me that I was on my last fuel and on my last lap of fuel, so I didn't forget to pit because sometimes that kind of stuff can happen. Now pitting with the real penalty app is really tricky. You really need to brake very hard to keep under the speed limit when you enter the speed limit zone. Interesting, I can see the P1 car right in front of me pitting as well. This guy was P2 before the pit stop started, so I'm thinking that again I have a chance at getting a better position in this race. Back then during the pits my preset had a little bit too much fuel and I didn't notice it, so my pit stop was a bit too long. Peraí, ainda vou ao meio da corrida. Ainda vai nos 30 minutos. I ended up speeding up this part of the video because it will be very boring for you guys to watch this part with the stop screen during the pit stop. Here I was getting out of the pits in the worst position possible in the back of the pack, so almost every car on the field was in front of me. That guy was getting lapped and for some reason he went off track while doing the corner on the very outside.
Right side's clear.
Here I can really notice that I lost third position and I'm in fourth position, so my pit stop was really bad because I added way too much fuel. I added at least 2 extra laps of fuel, which is always better safe than sorry, but 2 laps that cost me time, extra fuel time in the pit, and with that refuel time I've lost track position, and now if I want to fight for P2, I'm really further down the line. I'm 30 seconds behind the guy in P2.
Left side, left. Fastest lap for Lamping, 157.4. Gap to Lamping ahead is now 1.9. Lamping is now leading.
Right now I'm getting close to the guy in P3 and I'm thinking that at least I'll get to be in third position, a podium position, but from fighting for P1 and getting to finish the race in P3, I'm just gonna keep my head down and think about the long game and how long the race is, try to make the best of this situation that I have right now.
Left side, clear left.
Some of these endurance races are really fun, and I was very lucky to get this first endurance race in Road America because I know this track pretty well from other races. I really enjoyed this mod track for Assetto Corsa. I think it's one of the best quality mods out there, with a lot of track texture and a lot of force feedback information with the right car. And thankfully this is one of the right cars. This LMP3 mod is really good and high quality, and driving it on pace right at the first time that I'm driving this car was not too difficult for me because it feels very natural and I can apply the same racing and driving techniques that I would apply to most cars, and it gives me a very realistic feeling to drive. It's very natural, the way everything behaves is a little bit like I would expect it.
Yellow flag. It was just on 157.9. Smooth fastest left side, clear left.
I'm hoping I won't have to waste too much time to overtake the guy in P3 so that I can try to get closer to P2.
Okay, Carlos, matching race pace. That lap time was 157.4. You're right side's clear.
Soon in a few laps we will start getting closer to lapped traffic again, so it will be again the same challenge of navigating through lower class cars and lower speed drivers. And the guy in front gets out of shape, he goes a little bit off track, and that gives me a nice opportunity into this corner. I end up blocking up a bit, but I'm now very close to him, just following him, trailing him, and trying to find an opening without overstepping on my own driving technique.
Yellow flag.
I'm looking for an opportunity, but being a bit more careful because I don't really want to risk spinning and ending my race. Here he gets a really bad exit out of the last corner with that slide, so maybe I'll have my chance on this straight line. Going into turn 1, it will be a nice opportunity for me to finish the move. I also end up avoiding that lapped car, but now I'm being followed by the guy in P3, so I need to be very clean with my driving and just make sure I keep my pace, just keep pushing forward with fast exit speeds so that he can't catch me on the straight lines. Cruise Shifts just told me that I still have 20 minutes to go. Even though I'm a bit behind the guy in P2, I'm hopeful that I can still do a good, clean race. Really beautiful these cars, this Ferrari's 488 GT2 Challenge. I think I would also have enjoyed driving in the GT classes as well, but because I really enjoy driving prototypes and LMP kind of cars, I had to go with this car because it would make also dealing with traffic easier, and I'm not as used to drive the GT cars anymore as I used to be. Right now I can see the cost of my mistake in the lap times and the split from P1, P2 and P3 as the time I've lost with the spinning of the car and the extra fuel that I put during the pits, or just having a slower pit. I ended up falling behind and I'm not in their fight anymore.
Alright Carlos, the next car is 2 laps behind. Right side's clear.
The guy in P4 is still less than 2 seconds behind me, so he is still a threat to my position. I have to still be a bit careful and conservative in the way I drive to avoid any big mistakes or I can lose the position.
Car in front of us is 3 laps behind. The gap to behind is increasing. It's now 2.4 seconds. Clear left.
I am almost done with the lap traffic. In front of me I can see the Ford Mustang GT4. P1 and P2 are racing against each other in clean air, so they are in a better situation for now. Here we see again the Audi R8 LMS GT4.
Clear left. Sector 1's quick. Okay, Carlos, the next car is 2 laps behind. Yellow flag, keep your wits about you, mate.
It's very surprising that now, at the middle of the stint, the tires are not very worn out like they were last time, because I'm being a lot more careful with my driving, and at the same time I was also able to figure out the traction control settings and the brake bias settings for this car while driving it. to match the driving technique that I am applying to the car and to extract a more consistent performance out of it, and I'm feeling a bit more confident now. That was the Lamborghini Huracan ST Evo GT2, and now I'll be racing in clean air for quite a while. Our best lap times and even the regular lap times were a bit consistent between P1, P2 and P3. It's a bit frustrating for me that many times I do have the right pace, and even in other games in Competizione, not only in here, Assetto Corsa and sometimes Automobilista too, but I will mess up the pit stops, or I just lack the knowledge for how to properly do the pit strategies, because I didn't rehearse the races with their full length and the pit conditions that I should have prepared for. And looking at the track map, I can see the guy in P2 went off track. There is a yellow flag, and I'm quickly catching up to him. I think he had some trouble lapping the traffic and with the lapped cars. As I go around Alpine GT4 and the Porsche GT4 pretty quickly and easy. Keeping my second stint clean is paying off for me, because now I'm able to capitalize on P2 mistake and maybe even fight for that position. I want to start pushing the car, but this late braking almost gave me a mistake. I really need to be careful because the rear tires are prone to overheating. Looks like P2 went off track again. Maybe he is struggling with his tires or something with his car's setup, and maybe this is my chance to bounce and actually take the P2 position. I had some bad mistakes and I wasn't hoping for much more in this race. Here I am quickly closing in on him, and we have a GT4 class car in front of us. I think that this will be a moment where I can even close the gap further, and because he was having a little bit of trouble with this car, I am able to get an overtake on him. Right now all bets are off for who stands to finish the race in P2. He is still going to fight for this position though, and because his pace is also pretty good, I think that I will have a little bit of trouble now, and I will need to be very careful trying to defend this position and trying to keep my pace up without any big mistakes. Because this was my first time driving this car and I just came from the gym and I just found the race today and tried to create the setup for the car today, I didn't prepare very well for the race. I was already happy to finish in the podium in the P3 position, but to actually have had the chance to fight for P1, I was having a lot of fun with that, and of course fighting for P2 with this guy. Cuidado, mano. Her chief is warning me that he's seeing somewhere on each corner of the tires, which means that now I'll need to be a little bit extra careful to avoid the kind of mistakes that I had on the first stint of this race, where I had too many lockups and too many problems. Whoa, and this was really bad. I had a bit too much hesitation. I even had a lockup in the braking zone, and I wasn't sure if I was going to overtake him on the outside or on the inside. I was aiming to overtake on the inside, thinking that the guy had blue flag and would not defend this position, but the moment he moved to the inside, because I already had the lockup, I didn't have much anywhere else to go, any place to move the car, or I didn't really want to brake more and even lock up more, and I even ended up losing the position the same way I gained it. When I gained this position, the guy in front of me had a bit of trouble dealing with traffic, and now it was my turn. The problem now is that I got damage on the front aerodynamic of the car. Still think that the guy for a lower class car kept the car way too much on the racing line while he had two faster class cars fighting for position behind him. Maybe he doesn't have the same add-ons to be as aware as I am and to have the same level of track awareness and race awareness around him, but usually you don't want to be messing up in the middle of other class car fights, because they might be too focused on their own fight, they might be a bit distracted, and they can hit you and take you off the race, which was almost what happened there, unfortunately, and I really didn't want to hit anyone. I think this was my only incident where I hit another car in this race. Because I'm also a bit inexperienced with this car, I'm a bit under pressure because I have the chance to fight for P2 right in front of me, and my tires are wearing out pretty fast now because I'm trying to push it. And something weird happens here. Maybe it was lag or netcode, but for some reason I just see the car going outside the track. Maybe he got distracted or something like that. And I take this opportunity and just keep fighting, and I try to keep in front. Right now I'm again in P2 and I'm going to do my best to defend and to try to race this car to the end, keeping this position for myself. The race is not finished yet, and I still have to deal with some more lower class cars and lap traffic that can open up a few chances for him. And also the fact that the tires are wearing out so fast, I need to be very careful, and he seems to have a little bit faster entry speed into the corners. So there are lots of things racing right now through my mind, trying to figure out how am I going to deal with this, if I'm really able to fight to keep position 2, or if I'm just going to keep finishing the race in third position. After all this effort and such a crazy fun race with so much going on. Pretty easy overtakes right now. Every second counts, every little detail counts. This is a very tight race after almost 1 hour of racing. I'm still fighting for the position. Throughout this race I've been adjusting the brake bias, trying to figure out how to extract lap time from the car, because I notice if he's braking later, maybe he's locking up less, so he might have a more even distribution of brake bias. We go around another Audi R8 GT4. I'm still thinking about that accident, and I hope I don't lose the position to some penalty related to that contact. I really wanted to avoid having contact, and I even lost the position because of that. But once again, I felt like I was under extreme pressure and I didn't know what else to do. I'm starting to struggle a little bit more with tires because one of my tires on the back is already red. This Ford Mustang livery looks really fun on this GT4 car. We are arriving at the last 5 minutes of this race, and the guy behind me is still just 1 second behind me. anything can happen. It's still a lot of pressure. Here I'm even lowering the traction control preset, which means that I'll have a stronger traction control effect on the rear tires, because the rear tires are really struggling pretty hard. Right now any big mistake can make me lose the position, and so I'm trying to do everything I can to avoid any big slides or spinning the car. These three GT4 cars seem to be fighting for positions among themselves, so this is going to be very tricky. I need to be very careful. It looks like they give me no room on the track, so I just YOLO it and go in the grass for a bit. The race is almost finishing, so if I have any big mistake right now, there is no way I'll be able to recover and regain this position. I also enjoy using a pretty strong force feedback on my Fanatec Podium DD1, so right now I'm feeling pretty tired as well, and I'm even starting to struggle to turn the car a bit. Khrushchev is telling me that the tires look pretty worn out right now, and I can definitely feel it in the force feedback. After P2 made some mistakes, ever since I overtook his position he has been driving very consistently, and he is still just 1 second behind me, which means a lot of pressure in the last laps of this race. There are not many cars in front of us right now when we look at the track map, and I'm thinking that if I play my cards right I might be able to get away winning P2 in this race. My tires are completely dead. Here I have a really big lockup. I almost spun the car, and I was very lucky to be able to keep the car on the track. I need to be very careful with my racing technique and always be expecting to need to lift the pedals because the car is losing grip and sliding. Always expecting to have to correct the steering wheel if the car wants to move on the rear end. Always be expecting that things can go wrong. Here, once again, I was expecting him to move away from the racing line and make a little bit of a closed racing line instead of opening up the corner exit. And I didn't really want to compromise and lose too much speed on the inside line. Right now I'm almost losing the position for P2 and finishing the race in P3. The guy is just half a second behind me. This is extreme pressure on the last minute of racing in this endurance race.
The next car is 3 cars behind.
Somehow I'm able to pull a little bit of a bigger gap, bigger than 1 second right now. Maybe the guy in P3 did some mistake, and once again I'm facing another lower class car that I need to overtake cleanly and without much hassle.
Right. So you're right. 2 tenths off the pace in the second one. Cold tyres, many teams compete into the moment.
Maybe the guy behind me is struggling quite a bit more, because right now he is a lot more behind me than what he used to be. He went from being 1 second to 2 seconds behind me. One of my rear tires has no tread left on it. The tires are completely gone, and they are also overheating. Somehow I'm pulling some distance from the guy in P3. Maybe if I don't do any mistake, will this be my finishing position after 1 hour of intense racing in this long race? After just figuring out the setup for this car, after messing up in the first stint with a spin, after messing up in the second stint with the contact on a GT2 class car, after messing up also on the pit stop, and just having been in the fight for P1, P2 and P3 in the group of cars that was clumping together in the first half of the race, and I ended up finishing the race in P2 after a huge effort, 1 hour of racing just after hitting the gym. I'm completely worn out. What a crazy race, guys. I'm really happy with the result, and the racing was really fun and very respectful. Everyone got along really well. It was one of my best races. Hey guys, I hope you guys don't mind the noises from my girlfriend keyboard playing World of Warcraft. She's crazy about it and she's really good at it. So I'm going to be looking into the results. So far nobody's contesting anything. Let me see. I think I gained a ton of safety rating on this race, which I'm really happy for it. But yeah, this driver in front of me was in another level. This was a pro licensed driver, and probably he has been racing a lot more. His fastest lap was a bit faster than me, even though his last lap was a bit slower, but he was probably way more consistent. I had some distractions and some moments where I was a bit inconsistent, and I was struggling a little bit with the tires and also just the brake bias. I think I had the wrong adjustment on the brake bias, and I figured that out by watching the other drivers around me. I also noticed that the driver that was in P1 in front of me had a very high skill rating, not only the safety rating but the skill rating. Thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this race. This one of my best races ever, one of the most fun races I ever had in Assetto Corsa, and I hope you guys find similar fun doing sim racing. Thank you very much for liking the video if you enjoyed it, and leaving your comments with ideas and suggestions down below, and subscribing for my channel for more content. Let's level up the channel. Thank you very much. Have a great day and see you on the racetrack.